Hey, thanks so much for having me on. I'm Daniel Francis Olivieri. This is the Theology of Climate Change, and here's my excerpt.
Humans have learned to perform quite a few miracles previously reserved for the Almighty. These include growing our own babies, bestowing sight to the blind, and casting out disease. The magician Chris Angel even does a trick where he walks on water. Yes, science has allowed man to develop his own arsenal of miracles. Disasters, however, those were once the providence of God alone. In the past, one could look up at a jagged run of lightning as it set a barn on fire and exclaim in terror, "That was an act of God!" However, by 2050, the hurricanes that lay waste to cities will not be acts of God, but acts of man. For proof of this, we need look no further than the system for classifying storms. Ever since humans have been reporting them, storms have remained within the 5 levels of the Safford-Simpson scale. However, meteorologists now expect that they will soon have to add a new class of storm to account for the previously unheard of wind speeds that will be arriving to terrorize our coasts. Thus, it's reasonable to say that God made the incapable storm that fell into the first 5 categories. Humans, though, were responsible for the storms that followed into the 6th.
For me, I love essays because I love conversations. I think that experience of getting someone else's perspective on the world, getting some of their experiences, some of their anecdotes, some of their jokes, and then comparing it to your own experiences, your own opinions, and seeing how they're different and similar, that's one of the real joys of life for me. And I think that I'm really drawn to essays because that's a chance for one to hear other people's opinions put really well and thoughts and feelings, but also to really give people my best thoughts in their best configuration, really take the time to lay my ideas out clearly and hopefully in ways that are fun. The competition was asking for essays on the subject of climate change, and I felt that climate change on its own wasn't a subject I knew enough about to really say something original. But if I combined it with theology and this idea of religion, then maybe in that intersection I could find something that would feel a little bit original and fun and be worth other people's time. For me, there's a lot of walking or biking involved because I think that getting movement, getting a little bit active gets my mind moving as well. And then there's also, of course, many different drafts. I might go off in one direction and then decide against it and go in another. And I think another part is research to really just get interesting facts and just accumulate enough of them to really be able to put them together in an interesting way and sort of only include the ones that are the most fascinating and the most relevant. And then another big part is just sitting down and having fun and discovering for yourself what is interesting to me about this topic, what really brings me to this, and why do I care so much about it? And then of course having other people read it and give you their thoughts. Sometimes use a typewriter because I find that's faster and a little bit more normal for me than just writing out longhand with like a pen or pencil. But these days, I'll usually start it by writing on the computer, even though I feel like I already spend too much time on the computer. That's the most efficient way for me because it's easier to go back and edit it and easier to really put it all together. I love this question because I feel like a great answer is to notice the things that you're reading, the things that maybe podcasts you're listening to, maybe what you're watching. Find what is most interesting to you in those, and then combine them. I think it's really those intersections that are often the most interesting. For example, I recently read a book on debt. I've been reading some books on philosophy, so I could write an essay on the philosophy of debt to kind of find that intersection there. Or I read the Tao Te Ching and then also a book on prisons. So what would the Tao Te Ching have to say about prisons and criminal justice? I feel like it might disagree with a lot of what's going on in the U.S. And then I read a book on math, and of course everyone's read, romance novels or books on love. So what is the math of love? I feel like that's not a question that you've heard that many times before. And so I think it's by combining things from very different places that you often get the most interesting writing. I would say find a writer who you find is very clear for the clarity part. Read some of their work, and that will almost like set the tone in your mind so that you write in a similar way. For me, I use the writer Ward Farnsworth. I highly recommend his book, Classical English Rhetoric. His writing is just very clear and very easy to read, and so I'll sort of use him to set my mind. And then for logic and engagement, I would say having other people read it and specifically having a really honest person read it and give you their genuine feedback is really helpful to clear out any confusion, because I feel like one really honest person is probably worth their feedback is worth more than like 5 people who aren't engaging with it as much. I'd love to give a shout out to my editor Monty, my editor Charlotte, my sister Julia, who's always very supportive. Of course, my mother Olivia, who really got the writing itch into me in the first place, and yeah, my friends Tristan and Spencer, of course, who provide me with a lot of conjecture to discussing my essays. I'm sure I'm forgetting people, but those are all huge inspirations for my essays and people I really appreciate a lot. And of course, my partner Maggie. Yeah.